Più investiamo nel presente, prima raggiungiamo il futuro. Questa è l'idea che ci spinge ogni giorno a muovere il nostro paese verso la ripresa, a dare a tutti nuovi percorsi da seguire, a usare l'innovazione per essere più liberi di crescere, a esportare la nostra eccellenza italiana nel mondo, ad anticipare i cambiamenti per costruire un domani più sostenibile con tutti voi. Perché il futuro è la nostra destinazione, solo se è un viaggio che facciamo insieme. Più investiamo nel presente, prima raggiungiamo il futuro. Questa è l'idea che ci spinge ogni giorno a muovere il nostro paese verso la ripresa, a dare a tutti nuovi percorsi da seguire, a usare l'innovazione per essere più liberi di crescere, a esportare la nostra eccellenza italiana nel mondo, ad anticipare i cambiamenti per costruire un domani più sostenibile con tutti voi. Perché il futuro è la nostra destinazione, solo se è un viaggio che facciamo insieme.
Good morning. My name is Paolo Lembo, and I will be facilitating today's session. Today, we're going to focus on the roots of a new leadership. This is the topic of today. So, how together we can promote the leadership of the future. What does that mean? A future leadership is a leadership focusing on the common well-being, as in how to promote and to protect the common well-being, and especially how we can train a new generation of leaders that can better protect and safeguard the common good, the common well-being, and to promote progress. With us, we have four speakers. We have with us Yasmine Sherif, who is the Director of Education Cannot Wait. It is one of the most important funds worldwide to promote education, especially in developing countries and especially in very complex contexts like conflicts. Welcome, Yasmine. Then we have with us Giampaolo Silvestri. He is the Secretary General of a prominent Italian NGO that has been operating for the past 50 years in development and humanitarian emergencies in many countries. Its organization has been playing a prominent role in the educational sector, especially in very complex development contexts. Welcome, Paolo. Then we have two speakers who are connected with us. Erneste Nzeyimana, who is the Director of Telecom Services Provider in Kigali, Rwanda, whom we greet. Hello, welcome. He is a young manager of a very important company in Rwanda dealing with telecommunications. He has a very successful academic career. He has been supported by AVSI, and he shows us how it is possible to promote a new leadership in a developing country that can look at the future in a bright way. So welcome, Erneste. Then we have Giovanna Bottani. She is Operations Senior Consultant of STMicroelectronics Foundation. STMicroelectronics Foundation is a leading company worldwide for the production of microprocessors, and it is one of the three most important companies worldwide for microprocessors, especially in the automotive industry. She works for the foundation of the company, and this foundation deals with the promotion of digital education in developing countries. So how to tackle digital divide. So welcome, Giovanna. I had a colleague in the United Nations where I worked for 32 years who used to tell me we need to make sure that we do not waste the opportunities given by a crisis. With that, he meant that behind a major crisis, there is also a good opportunity. We need to find out that opportunity, and we need to be able to transform that crisis into an opportunity for growth, to look at the future with different eyes. I believe that this is the main problem we have today in the world, how to transform the pandemic into an opportunity whereby not only can we reconstruct what has been devastated by this terrible epidemic, we don't want to build the world back as it used to be. We don't have to do that. We need to have the courage to understand how to reimagine the future. And we need to build something which is better than what we now have. And this is what we're going to discuss today, as in how we can imagine a common effort, how we can make a common effort in terms of education to train the new leadership, the leadership that we all need to reimagine the future. So that, especially in developing countries, that urgently needs leadership, urgently need local leadership, which expresses the needs of the cultures and local tradition, which is not imposed by outside. A leadership protecting the common well-being and the common good. A leadership having clear principles in mind, focusing on modern development, where men and women are all equal, because all men have values, regardless of their functions and professional lives. A leadership whereby human rights are sacred, universal, and must be protected for all. All people are entitled to education, regardless of their sex, gender, religion, and other. A leadership whereby man is at the center of its vision and the respect of its rights. I remember that 30 years ago, the United Nations sent me to the north of a country, which is in the newspapers today, Afghanistan. I landed in Mazar-e-Sharif, and the Soviet troops had just been evacuated from that place. I entered the UN office, which had just been opened, and in that office I found a young Swedish girl that had been there for a few months. I met her, and I was surprised because I said, "What are you doing here?" And she said, "Well, I believe it is worth imagining that the future of these countries can be different from its past. And this is what I'm here for, and the United Nations too." And I was very struck by her determination, by her clear vision. This girl at that time had already understood that without an educational strategy, a far-sighted educational strategy, the country would have not had a future. And this is a very topical issue today. This girl's name was Yasmine Sherif, and she's here with us today. Yasmine, 32 years in the United Nations. You worked in the 4 continents. And now you are the director of the most important global fund of the United Nations dealing with promotion and of education in developing countries, especially under emergencies. How can we join forces in order to meet the needs of the youth, the children, in order to fulfill their needs, in order to create a better world? What is the role of your organization? What has been your experience, your success, your challenges?
Grazie mille Paolo e buongiorno Italia.
Thank you very much, Paolo, and good morning, Italy.
Italy. It's such a beautiful country, and I've been here many times. But it's my first time in Rimini, so I add Rimini to my heart. I promised to learn Italian, but I will speak in English this time. Education cannot wait. Let me first say a few words about AVSI. I just walked around at the Rimini conference together with my colleagues or partners from AVSI to see the work that AVSI is doing with refugees in Uganda and other parts of the world where we work with AVSI. And my heart was deeply moved, because AVSI is not just any other organization. It's an organization of compassion and expertise, and it comes from a deep place in the heart. And I'm sure all Italians can relate to that. I've been very moved today. Education cannot wait. We are not an implementer. We don't do the work on the ground. We are a global movement and a global fund for education for children and young people in situations of emergencies, armed conflict, climate change. So we speak about children and young people in countries like Uganda, Democratic Republic of the Congo, Palestine, Lebanon, Syria, and Rohingyas in Bangladesh, Sudan. Those we call the children and young people left furthest behind. And to make sure that the education that they receive is holistic. Because these children and young people, there are two sides to them. One is the enormous suffering that they have seen and experienced, and the resilience that comes out of that, and the importance of providing quality, holistic education. And to do so, we need to work together. We need to work in partnership as one humanity and empower them so that they become the leaders of the future, to make sure that there are no more wars, that we can address climate change, and we can create a better world together. And there, AVSI is one of our most important partners. I've been to Lebanon to meet with our AVSI partners, working with refugees from Syria, providing holistic education, informal education, with very little means, one smartphone. They are suffering, and they have a family of 6 people. And I've seen the great work that AVSI is doing to cater to the Syrian refugees. I've seen the same work. We have a big investment. As education cannot wait, working with AVSI in many other partners in Uganda for refugees and host communities. And as I mentioned, the Rohingyas in Bangladesh. And we are also looking forward to work with AVSI in South Sudan, Sudan, and many other parts of the world where we need your expertise and your compassion and authentic feeling for humanity to make these children the future leaders of their communities and their societies and humanity at large. That's what we need. What are our priorities? And we appeal to private sector. We appeal to the government of Italy. We appeal to the world. We need the resources to work together. Education cannot wait needs $1 billion to reach at least 10 more million children and young people in 27 to 30 crisis countries, to provide holistic education and turn the tide of suffering to strength and leadership for humanity. And I don't know how many minutes I have left, Mr. Paolo.
You have just 1 minute, so then we have a second.
So let me conclude. Let me conclude my last minute. I want to thank the board member of AVSI, Mr. Paolo Lembo. I want to thank my panelist colleagues, Giampaolo, Giovanna, who will be speaking after me, and Erneste, whose success story of AVSI's work. But let me conclude where Mr. Paolo Lembo started. We met 30 years ago in Afghanistan. And today, and we share the same values and ethics that AVSI stands for, of humanity, compassion, resilience, make a better, more humane world. So he is also one of my best friends. And I thank you for inviting us, Paolo. I have a great respect for you as a former great UN official, and a great respect for AVSI and for my colleagues who will be speaking now, Erneste and Giovanna. Thank you so very much, and thank you, Italy. Amore Italy. You say that? Amore. Exactly. Thank you.
Grazie, Yasmine. Grazie.
Thank you, Yasmine. Thank you. Thank you across the ocean. She came from New York for us, and she will go back to New York tonight. Thank you for your personal contribution, very vibrant from an emotional perspective. I think it was 1999. It was fall 1999 when the NATO forces ended the military operations in the Balkans, the bombing. And the international community went to Kosovo for what would have been the major humanitarian missions of that time. At that time, I was appointed the General Coordinator for Development at the United Nations, And in fall that year, I went there. And while I was trying to understand how to better coordinate all different forces, by chance, I met a young guy who was kind of awkward. He wanted to meet me, and he told me, the problem here is not just tackling humanitarian emergencies. He was very strong-willed, that guy. And the problem here is how to manage the future. Not to manage the present, but how to manage the future. And if we don't start immediately to reconstruct institutions that in the future will ensure a local leadership, this country will have no future. Now, this young guy was called Giampaolo Silvestri. He was a Secretary General, is now Secretary General of AVSI after more than 20 years. You're still there, frontline, working. You work on programs in many different countries, and education is still one of the hottest topics of AVSI. You now are managing world programs which are taken as a model by other organizations. How can we best tackle the challenge and the opportunity provided by the pandemic? How can we reimagine partnerships among governments, NGOs, in the United Nations and local communities? How can we promote a new vision of education in order to create a future leadership that can lead us to a better world? What are the experiences in AVSI throughout the planet that you want to share with us so that we can promote even stronger partnerships to tackle the future challenges?
Grazie, Paolo.
Thank you very much, Paolo. I'm very happy that you recollected this episode occurred in 1999, because this anecdote is very important also for my professional experience. I was at the beginning of my career. I was much younger, and as you said, I was very much strong-willed, and I wanted to do so many things. But if we stick to that example, well, if we stick to history, let's say, we can start to try to understand the importance of contributing to leadership formation. We went to Kosovo and we made loads of things, as we usually do with projects. We built houses, we provided help, but probably the most important thing we do in the countries where we work is that we contributed to the growth of so many people. We help educating so many people, and not just in terms of education. And those people were the beneficiaries of our projects, but they were also the people working with us, so people from Kosovo, staff members. And, well, AVSI is not in Kosovo any longer after 20 years, but these people have created no-profit entities by themselves. They have established entities that are working there. So this is our heritage, and we contributed to that. So we contributed to the development of leadership and to the development of that country. But that takes time. This is a key aspect, because these processes require time. So they are long-term processes. So you do not create leadership over time. It takes time. The key words are education and leadership. Well, at the end of the day, this is what our job is about. It's about carrying out projects that deal with the tangible things, providing food, building hospitals, educating children. But at the end of the day, the ultimate goal of any project is to help people develop themselves and be empowered. So it's important to empower people, in the places where they live, so that they can contribute to the common good of their own countries. The key word today is not just help, but it's cooperation. You work with. So the keyword is collaboration, cooperation, to work on an equal foot with your partners. And it is very important to involve all the stakeholders, so NGOs, the large donors and funds that can find resources, but also state entities, local businesses, the private sector. All stakeholders are involved because, individual action is almost impossible. But in order to do that, we need leaders. When I say leaders, I do not mean political leaders, but leaders in society, in international organizations, in the economic sector. So people who have a vision, people who can really take care for common good, people who are inclusion-oriented, so people that have the ability to see the big picture and to work for the common good, including everybody, not leaving anyone behind. And next year, AVSI will celebrate its 50th anniversary, so 50 years of projects of different kinds, not just when it comes to education. We want to support and accompany people, because when you do that, you not just contribute to their education and development and empowerment, but educators are also rich. So the advantages are not just for the beneficiaries, but also for the providers of this support. To us, education means contributing to the development of independent eyes, so people that acknowledge their own dignity and who become aware of their potential. Because for people living marginalized, in poverty, in really misery, it's very important to acknowledge one's own dignity, because once you have done that, you can acknowledge the dignity of the others. So this is what we desperately need, because on top of that, this kind of attitude gets people together and make them in the right condition to take care for the common good. So acknowledging one's own dignity is the first fundamental step to create leaders. Future leaders should then be able to propose and outline possible models of development. This is our idea, because the real issue is not trying to export models of development. Not at all. We have seen that it does not work. You cannot export models of development or models of democracy. No, not at all. You need to empower people, give them the tools in order to do that by themselves, hands-on, where they live, in order to come up with the ideal model of development they need. That's the only way, because otherwise top-down approaches do not work. And unfortunately, history is showing that to us very clearly. So to do what I've just described, you need time, because these processes require time. And as AVSI, we can state that, yes, we have contributed to the development of future leaders, and these new leaders have become protagonists of their own countries, but after working in a country for 10, 15 to 20 years. So we saw seeds somehow. In Kosovo in 1999, we started to sow seeds also with Paolo, because our friendship was born there, and then we kept meeting here and there over the years. So we sow seeds, and then from these seeds, trees grow and they bear fruits. So everything I've tried to explain is somehow epitomized by Erneste's story, because his story shows what we try to do in the countries where we work over the years, So to create new leaders, yes, we saw seeds. We work together. We work with, not just for. And this is about a great strategic aspiration. It's very important to underscore these differences. So working with people. So you mentioned Erneste Nzeyimana. We are connected with him. He is in Kigali, Rwanda, and he's the director of the telecom services provider company Rwanda. He's a young and promising manager of an emerging country. He's doing very well and is looking at the future with a lot of, determination, and this country knew some pretty good growth. And his story is really a symbol because that shows us to what extent it is possible to carry out a successful strategy in such a country. And AMSI strongly believed and supported Erneste, and Erneste showed that he was extremely responsible and accountable, and now he's going to share with us his story. And I hope that it will be an inspiration for hundreds of young people in order to let them see a better future. And because we would really like to make the developing world become more independent and aware of its potential. So Erneste, which was your story, your challenges, and how did you cope with them, and how were you so successful, and how do you see the challenges for your country that is doing pretty well now? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Paolo. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Actually, as they said, I'm Ernest and I'm from Rwanda. I've grown in a small family, modest family. We were a family that can afford food at least a day. It was a good family, but in my country, there was a genocide that against Tutsi that hit the country. It was in 1994. It was really a very bad time when everything collapsed and people died. At that time was the starting of a struggle, a difficult time. It was very hard. I was only 6 years old, and we couldn't even manage to eat at least once a day. Houses have been demolished. It was terrible. It was terrible. And when I had 7 years old, I went to my primary school. I didn't do my nursery school. But when I finished only primary one, I had to drop out because my family couldn't afford to pay for me the school fees on all the school requirements. So I dropped out and I turned back to my village, and that was a terrible time. I remember after 1 year, someone came in our village, and she was looking for me, and she was of great personality. Her name, I remember, was Chantal. When she came in our village, we got scared because we were still living in past. We were still living in bad memories. Maybe someone's coming to see me for what? Maybe it's for bad stories. But she approached us, and she came in our home. We welcomed her, and she told us that she's from AVSI. She explained to us what AVSI is, and she asked me why I'm not at school. I explained to her that I'm not at school because we cannot afford the school. She asked me if I want to turn back to school. I said confidently, yes, I want to turn to school. And she said that AVSI is going to take me back to school, and the rest AVSI will take care of it, including school fees, uniform, medical care, everything. That was a great motivation for me, and I turned back to school with a lot of energy, determination, effort. I started again in primary 2. Since then, I've been with AVSI for the rest of 5 years in primary school, and I've been AVSI in high school for the 6 years. And due to determination, due to hard working, due to taking care of my schools, I finished my high school with a scholarship, with an award of a scholarship to pursue my university studies in the University of Rwanda with a governmental scholarship. I've done my electrical and electronics engineering, and after finishing my studies, I've been kept connected with AVSI because it's my family actually. It's my family. I kept connected with them, and I've moved to various positions working in different institutions, either public and private. But today, and since past 3 years, I've been a country manager. I'm a country director of a Lebanese telecommunication company. It's working in various countries, currently 16 countries worldwide, and I'm responsible for it here in Rwanda. And I'm having a happy family. I have a wife. I have one child. I have a hope. I've moved from just being this person who is looking for support, but I've moved to this person who's looking for solution, who's looking for, who is providing the support for those people who are in need. To cut the story in short, without AVSI, to be honest, I couldn't be the person I am today, and I couldn't find a way that I can thank AVSI. It's really, no one can imagine that people whom doesn't even know you, he is sparing some kind of support. He's supporting you. I remember one story that I need to give to you. One time, my parents, I call them parents because they are my parents in Italy, they sent me a letter. It was written in French. I remember that person told me that even in Italy, life is not easy. But they tried to secure a small amount of money to sponsor my studies. That was something really touching, showing that a helping doesn't mean that you have a lot or you have excess. It's this hard. No matter how support can be, but really it means a lot. It means something very big. It's something that can shape, that can change life, to create better managers, better leaders, even better than me. So, ladies and gentlemen, to cut this my story, I think a strong effort is still required at helping people, maybe in my country, Rwanda, and in other countries, the developing world. I think the great support is still needed, mainly putting efforts in still in education, in vocational education is still something very important. Helping people, helping young women and men to be able to think ahead, to be able to work with the technology, digital stuff. I think the much of effort still required. Whoever may be having this chance to hear my speech, I'm encouraging everyone to give this supporting hand to help other people out there and creating their future, bringing their dreams into reality. Thank you so much, Mr. Paolo. Thank you.
Grazie, grazie molte.
Thank you very much. Because yes, you can change people's life, and this is very important. Erneste, Nzeyimana, and under your leadership, the telecom services provider of Rwanda increased so much its budgets and turnover. I mean, and you also promoted very important regional agreements. So you're really an example of the consequences of leadership promotion, of educational promotion, and also of the chain of, let's say, reactions that are generated by such a support. So certainly, helping families and people gives a great contribution to the bigger, wider development of a country and of a region. And I heard today the word partnership many times, and I think that probably is so clear today that partnerships are key. The world is more and more interdependent, and the pandemic has showed that once again. And it is important to be better, to improve at managing coordination, because maybe if we had been more coordinated, we would have been better in managing the pandemic. So again, going back to the future of the world and trying to be more human, understanding the partnerships that we need and how to better outline them will be more and more important in the future. So which are the best partnerships between international organizations like the UN, United Nations, and with NGOs like AVSI, but also between and among private foundations that play an increasing important role when it comes to promoting development, especially in the educational sector? We're going to talk about this with Giovanna Bottani, Senior Operation Consultant of STMicroelectronics Foundation. And she has contributed to relaunching this foundation that today works in several countries. You work in 28 countries. You have reached out to 800,000 beneficiaries. It's a large operation. You work in difficult concepts from Congo to Sierra Leone that you also visited, and you work there personally. And you work in the critical sector because you tackle the digital divide and digital education challenge. And with you, I would like you to tell us stories of people, not just strategies. So if you allow me to do so, how the people you worked with over the years within the partnerships react to your initiatives. I mean, which was the impact of your experiences? Which were the consequences? And which were the chains of reactions that you triggered? Thank you very much for your introductory words. I'm sorry for not being there, but I feel so many good vibes with the other panelists, and especially I see such a high level of sharing of key concepts and principles like long-term engagement and commitment, partnership, investing in education to create new local leaders. These are key concepts, key values that are at the very heart of the work of our foundation, ST Foundation. What do we do? Well, over the last 20 years, we have struggled against the digital divide, the digital illiteracy. We have decided to invest mostly in this sector because, in our opinion, partnerships are key. In each recipient country, we try to see and find the best possible partner, the partners that share our vision, those that can somehow better respond to our challenges. And unfortunately, because of the pandemic and because of the COVID, I mean, our work was hindered. But again, we do not stop. And partnerships with local partners are key. We work in complex settings, South Sudan, Sierra Leone, Democratic Republic of Congo, Malaysia, India. Now we are also active in Haiti. So in all these countries, we try to make IT, education and skills available in order also to make information and knowledge more democratic, in order to offer education, to improve knowledge and skills. So, well, what's the outcome of all this? We have seen that thanks to these partnerships, thanks to this joint work, well, as Erneste said, incredible success stories can just happen. I prepared just one slide for this session that we're having, because this slide represents 10 years of work and the success story that started in 2011 and that is ending, so to speak, this year, but we hope that much more will happen in the future. This is the story of a former student of ours, and is now a technical and IT sort of contact expert. And he was born in the Sud Kivu region, and he started joining our basic and advanced IT courses, and he gets so passionate about our initiatives, and that was 2011. And somehow Barthélemy sees so much more than the courses. He understands that those skills can really make a difference, not just for himself, but also for his city, his province, and his country. He has a vision. In 2019, our collaboration with him ends, but not as well to keep this project forward. Why? Because Barthélemy is the witness of how young people can really radically change their life thanks to the training courses that we offer in our training center of Casale. And then they can set up cyber cafes or IT centers or other realities. In 2019, so our collaboration with Barthélemy, let's say, ended, but Barthélemy did not stop, and our work together continued in a different way. And we decided to keep working with him, and he was involved in other initiatives. And in 2-3 years' time, we have been able to offer courses about the writing a special robotics software. So we started with these training hub for IT training, and to offer to young people who sometimes have not even seen a TV set. And now we have these self-managed, financially self-sustained training hub in 2021 that offers very specialized IT courses, including software writing for robotics. So you see, and we were able to do this also thanks to the cooperation, not just with our partners, but also with the young people that we first trained. So that's why this example for me is so important, because again, every project that we carry out somehow never ends. And Barthélemy is willing to keep working with us because he has seen that now the interest for such a training hub is growing all around the province. So there is such a buzz around this initiative that, was possible thanks to the participation of Barthélemy, that a couple of days ago we had an official visit of the Minister for Economic Development, Mr. Nzeyimana, and now we have developed another project. We would like to export this very same training hub model to other areas of the country, to other provinces, because we would really like to contribute to the dissemination of know-how, because we would like to train professionals all over the country, and that would bring so much to Congo in general. Because what I've noticed is that in any country I work with, Congo, but also Sierra Leone, all the so-called fragile countries, there's so much potential, so much creativity, so much talent. You just need to support that and channel that with the right tools and means trying also to make the most of what you can do, because unfortunately COVID and the pandemic has somehow made our work more difficult. Yeah, we can work on remote, and now most is done on remote, and probably in the future also. I mean, these are new working ways that probably will become part of our daily life. So we have so many young people like Barthélemy and like Erneste. So the message is very clear. If you really want to do something, if you work together with the right local partners, and if you work with partners sharing the same concepts and values, you can make the difference. And again, the successful story of Barthélemy is a great example. That is like a sort of drop that once dropping into water, falling into water, it creates circles. And so things get bigger and bigger. And this is so positive. Oh, yes, Giovanna, this confirms what we said in the beginning. Without any partnerships, without a new vision of partnerships, taking up the post-COVID challenges will be more and more difficult. So thank you very much for sharing this concept that has been expressed by all our panelists. We still have a few minutes. So Yasmine, so very quickly, just a quick word from you. I know that your heart has always been in Afghanistan. I know that you have large programs for Afghanistan, especially in the education sector, and especially for children. So, which are the new modes that you are envisaging for the future of education in this country that has suffered so much?
Thank you very much, Paolo. Yes, I mean, we all know that the world is watching Afghanistan, and Afghanistan Thank you, Paolo. We all know that the world is very confused, and we are watching Afghanistan, where, as Paolo and I know, is a conflict that's been going on for the past over 4 decades. But we are, as Education Cannot Wait, a global fund in the United Nations. We are determined to stay and continue to reach the children, ensure that girls' education continues, boys' education, and all adolescents. We have a big program in Afghanistan where we work with many civil society organizations and UN agencies in what we call the joint program. And we are now developing a second phase of this program. And we so hope that AVSI will be one of our great partners in Afghanistan, because the children and the youth of Afghanistan have so much resilience to build on, as both Paolo and I know. And together we can make sure that every child, every girl and boy rebuilds Afghanistan from over 40 years of war. But we need you all to work with us, because it costs money, funding to save humanity, and it starts with education. But we'll stay in Afghanistan.
Grazie. Grazie.
Thank you.
Grazie.
Thank you. This is what I wanted to hear. Giampaolo, a word on the priorities in the short and medium term. I know that you're expanding in several parts of the world, but you had to also to take up the COVID challenge. Which are the priorities of AVSI, the medium and short?
Well, first of all, we are now working for the earthquake in Haiti. As you all know, there was a very strong earthquake in the south of Haiti, an area where AVSI has been operating since the 1990s. The earthquake was very severe. There have been many victims. The population is under difficulty. 3 days after the earthquake, there was the Grace typhoon that complicated all our operations. To us, Haiti is a priority country. So we launched crowdfunding, and we are now collecting funds, and we are trying to get some support of the United Nations. So Haiti is our priority today. But then you also have many other protracted crises where we are present. For example, Syria. We are engaged in Syria. We are on the spot. We have a major program called Open Hospitals. We are working in the Middle East in general, and then we are working in Africa, like in northern Mozambique, where there's a very difficult situation with refugees. We have been working in Mozambique with Education Cannot Wait. So there are many challenges. And maybe we also have the resources. Now, Yasmine launched an appeal to major donors. It is important to invest in education. She said that we need $1 billion to enable many children and youth to go to school. Maybe what is lacking is the ability and sometimes the willingness to sit around the table and find reasonable solutions. So many mistakes could be avoided, I think. And we see the effects of these mistakes in the newspapers today. So we need to work together, to reason together, to think together, to find common objectives. So this is what is necessary today in order to tackle the challenges of the future, which concern us all, not just the people in Haiti that have been hit by the earthquake, but they also concern us, because today we live in a world whereby what happens in Haiti has consequences here and in Afghanistan. We cannot be indifferent to what is happening in the rest of the world. We are involved the first line, and we have to take on responsibility for us and for our children. And leaders must have this vision, must have this ability to think worldwide and not local. They must have a vision on the future and on the big challenges of the future. Thank you, Giampaolo. I would like to have a very short word by Erneste, because we're now coming to a close. On your country, Erneste. Your country has made a long journey. Erneste talked about his personal history and talked about the complex situation in Rwanda. Rwanda has significantly developed, and the company that Erneste is working in bears a witness of the growth of Rwanda. Very short, Erneste. How is Rwanda preparing to tackle the challenges of the future? What is the future of Rwanda? What type of partnership, what type of education is needed so that Rwanda can continue to progress and go towards the future?
Thank you so much. I think that what has helped Rwanda to be on the position it is today, it was due to mainly good leadership. Leaders with vision, leaders who create clear policies, mainly in education. It has been helping, and as I've said, back 27 years back, country was really down. But currently is a remarkable country due to the work that has been done by all Rwandans, all the partners, all the sponsors, all the NGOs like AVSI and others. I think the future of Rwanda, government of Rwanda is putting much efforts in technical vocation trainings, hands-on skills, developing local competence, developing local people who can carry out the jobs, who can deliver the jobs. I'll give you an example. Previously, there was a saying that Rwandans, they used to say that poor or fake engineers, that if we need a good engineer, we need to go to somewhere else. We need to go to Kenya. If we need to have a good manager, we need to go somewhere else. But through investing in education, through developing all these clear education policies, I think Rwanda is doing a great job, and the future is really promising. And if I can give you a very small testimony, just 1 minute, like in my company, the company I'm working for, we go to technical schools, we pick some good students, we bring them, we train them how to do these technical stuffs, how to run cables, how to connect to radios, how to configure radios until the site is getting on air. And it is helping. Those people, when they finished, we employ them sometimes, or just they are competent, they can find jobs anywhere. So I think investing in technical competence and digital, it's something that is very important, and we are lucky that our governments really understand this and promote it. Thank you.
Grazie, grazie.
Thank you, Erneste. Now we no longer have time, but now I want to give the floor back to Giovanna Bottani just for a minute. I would like to hear from you. How has the ST Foundation overcome all the problems in coordinating partnerships between foundations, private foundations, and the major international agencies and NGOs? I know that you achieved excellent results in bridging this gap, not only the digital gap. So what are your future partnerships after the COVID? Well, this is a very good question, because with COVID, our foundation, like all other non-profit organizations, has had to reorganize its activities in order to tackle the challenges of the post-pandemic. We needed to reorganize activities. We needed to design new activities in order to reduce the impact of COVID on our beneficiaries. But all that needed to be done in partnership with someone else. And for the past 2 years, we have been co-designing projects. So now we are no longer looking for a partner sharing our values and our vision, but we are now looking for partners sitting around the table with us in order to co-design new projects to tackle new challenges. I think that this is something new for us. This is a new approach that we are adopting. And this is an approach that we started to adopt 2 years ago. And after 2 years, we have seen the excellent results of the cross-fertilization of skills and know-how. Usually, corporate foundations at the beginning can be a bit reluctant to do that. But when they go out of their comfort zone, so to speak, then excellent results can be achieved. Results that maybe at the beginning were unthinkable. So this is the message I want to convey. This is the new vision that I want to share with you. Thank you, Giovanna Bottani. So we are now coming to an end of the session. Let me just thank you all all the audience in the room and all the people who have been connected with us. Thank you very much to our speakers, Yasmine, Sherif, Giampaolo, Silvestri, Erneste, Nzeyimana, and Giovanna Bottani. Let me say that if there is something that I can take back from this meeting is the fact that we have a personal and collective responsibility. The world is increasingly interconnected, and it is an illusion to think that development and humanitarian assistance is something local. This is not true, because we are all interconnected. Therefore, our future will depend on our ability to take on personal responsibility, each one of us, in order to work together. It's not going to be easy. The tragedy of the pandemic has worsened difficult situations, but this is possible. And this is what we have listened from today's speakers, who have a passion, who have an engagement to work even better together. This is not only possible, but it is necessary, because otherwise there's no future if we continue to work in silos, just looking at our local and national interests. It's not going to be easy, but it's possible. We do not want to reach a perfect world. It could be boring and impossible, but we want to get to a better world. But this is possible only if we do it together. Thank you.
Più investiamo nel presente, prima raggiungiamo il futuro. Questa è l'idea che ci spinge ogni giorno a muovere il nostro paese verso la ripresa, a dare a tutti nuovi percorsi da seguire, a usare l'innovazione per essere più liberi di crescere, a esportare la nostra eccellenza italiana nel mondo, ad anticipare i cambiamenti per costruire un domani più sostenibile con tutti voi. Perché il futuro è la nostra destinazione, solo se è un viaggio che facciamo insieme. Più investiamo nel presente, prima raggiungiamo il futuro. Questa è l'idea che ci spinge ogni giorno a muovere il nostro paese verso la ripresa, a dare a tutti nuovi percorsi da seguire, a usare l'innovazione per essere più liberi di crescere, a esportare la nostra eccellenza italiana nel mondo, ad anticipare i cambiamenti per costruire un domani più sostenibile con tutti voi. Perché il futuro è la nostra destinazione, solo se è un viaggio che facciamo insieme.